Hey guys, welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. On this week's episode, we got Kyle Ellsworth from the Georgia Sports Content on Instagram as we talk about the crazy recruitment of Caleb Downs, who ends up committing and transferring to the Buckeyes, Ohio State. Georgia fans were disappointed on that. Also, look at the way too early top 25 for the 2024 season. And in the recruiting class for 2024, what are impact players that can make an impact right away for the Dogs? Make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. That really helps out. A special new guest, Kyle Ellsworth from Georgia Sport Content on Instagram. How are we doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great. What about you? It's been a crazy past couple of weeks for the Dogs. You've had the down situation where people thought he was going to Georgia until Friday came around and things kind of changed. And late in the night, around 8 or 9 o'clock, he decided to pick Ohio State. And immediately they announced him onto their NIL collective, which is kind of interesting. So, he got some sort of deal there. We don't know if that's what swung it or if it was something else, maybe emissions. But it was kind of interesting to see lately. So I want to get your take on that. There was obviously the recent decommitment of Tay Harris,
right?
The DB from Cedartown. So bunch of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, not still a lot of news, even though everybody's saying off season. There's still a lot of Georgia talk. Yeah, the Caleb Downs, all the Rusty Manziel and Jake Rowe from on three. Everybody was picking. I think even Jeff Sintel from Dog Nation. Everybody had a good feel that it was going to be who Caleb Downs was going to be a dog. But some of the stuff reading into it over the weekend was I heard his mom might have been a little, I want to say, all angry or mad about not having his brother, which I didn't even know he had a brother that was being recruited. That they didn't give him a scholarship. I did hear some admissions, but the fact that I think around later in the week or Thursday, he was actually in Athens looking at apartments and he was spotted. He is a Georgia guy coming from the state of Georgia. And then Ohio State, which was runner up in his initial recruitment, did end up getting him, I'm sure, NIL. And they also got the Alabama quarterback that was 2024.
Julian Sand.
Julian
So a
Sand.
bunch of interesting stuff. So
Yeah.
I do want to touch on you talking about Rusty and stuff. There was some stuff that he said about it. He said they were at a dinner, they did that kind of thing, and then things slowly changed late into the night. Like right before stuff started breaking, things changed. So it was really interesting to see. And I will also say he mentioned on a podcast last night that Tay Harris, who is a Cedartown guy, he decommitted from Georgia, and immediately after he released pics of him in Georgia Tech gear, and Rusty Manziel said on a podcast that he thinks Georgia Tech is a big time player there. So that one will also be interesting to watch how that one unfolds, because I always like seeing where these guys who pick Georgia then go, we're going to something else.
Sure. But it was a big blow because you would have had Malachi Starks, Caleb Downs, and KJ Bolden, who's an incoming freshman. That would have been a loaded secondary. But Buckeyes ended up getting him. I read something like, I don't know if it's from Twitter it's around $13 million, I believe they said. I believe this was Lane Train said that or something, posted that, hey, Ohio State spending some money. But
Yeah, I don't
they
know
had a
what
big
the deal
weekend.
ended up being, but
Yeah.
all we're gonna know for sure is rumors. But I do know for Georgia, if they would have gotten them, they would have been the favorite for next year's national championship. If they don't get him, they're still the favorite. So he was more of a luxury than a need. I know most fans wanted him,
Exactly.
but the fact is you still have one All-American safety instead of like two potential All-American safeties. So it's not that much of a difference. Plus, you still got stars like KJ Bolden back there coming in, Ellis Robinson coming in, lots of great players coming in. Obviously, you got like Laster, Bullard, Tyke Smith leaving. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but getting some of those guys back is huge, and getting some of the additions are huge.
Yeah. Did want to briefly look at a while back. I know everything's kind of in the book and hay in the barn, as they say, on the 2024 class. Who do you think maybe could play right away and make an impact from the 2024 signing class for Georgia?
I will say what most people say. The closer to the ball, the more likely you probably aren't going to play. So most likely, if you're looking at guys who are going to play early, it's either going to be a wide receiver or some kind of DB. So in this case, I'd probably lean towards Ellis Robinson
Mhm.
because my thought is you got Julian Humphrey back, but you're losing your top starter and you're trying to rotate some guys in. So I believe Ellis Robinson will get some run there. I don't know if he gets starting reps, but he'll probably get some backup reps at some point. But we'll just have to see. There's obviously some surprises every year. Like CJ Allen was kind of a surprise, made some surprise reps. So I'm super excited to see how it works out.
How about Justin Williams? I keep saying he's like Roquan Smith-esque. He can go fly around the ball, really smart kid. KJ Bolden might start him out at special teams possibly, and then the Joseph Jonah Janye. I believe he might be a big name. Any of those names that might stand out, or
I will say on the Justin Williams front, athletic linebacker who's going to get some run at some point, whether it be backup role with the four game redshirt rule. It allows you to give some guys some run and allow them to kind of develop a little bit. And I will also say his brother sent the Dogs on three board into a frenzy after they heard about him being on campus. Someone mentioned they saw his brother there, Kavan Townsend, and everyone was trying to figure out who he was. And now people know who he is. He's a walk-on receiver, so it adds a little bit of depth. And it's just like kind of last year when they brought on Ali Harris, who is the brother of Jordan Hall. So
hmm.
it's really interesting to see Georgia bringing on the older brothers of these dudes to help keep these dudes happy and bring in a little bit more depth.
That's right. I like it. And then I think Ryan Pugli, I always call him Puglisi. I always misspell and say his name. But I think he's going to be a down the road guy. But I did hear already in the winter workouts he's really impressing. And I know we had the UNLV guy that was a Georgia guy for like a day in the
Jaden
transfer.
Maeva.
That's right. He was a DGD for sure. His day
Shortest dog stay that ever.
it was he had DGD status. But who do you think might be back up coming in the spring behind Carson Beck? Think Gunnar Stockton? Think Ryan Puglisi will have
I
a push?
think Gunnar Stockton will be the backup, but I do know Georgia wants to bring in a quarterback relatively young. They want to bring in a guy with like 3 to 4 years of experience, most likely. And right now, I've been looking and I've been trying to see, oh, is there any guy out there? But it seems like there's no good ones that are Georgia quality. So it'll be interesting to see how Georgia swerves there, whether they go, oh, we're going to get another preferred walk on and we're going to make it a transfer preferred walk on. Whether they're going to go, we're going to go for an older player and give them a scholarship. So it's really interesting to see. And Georgia also needs a tight end. And they were looking at Benjamin Eurosek, a
Mm,
tight end from Stanford. He's
Stanford, yeah.
had over 1,000 yards in like 3 seasons there receiving. And I think he could compete for that tight end one spot. He's 6'4", around 240, has 1 year of eligibility left. And right now that Texas got Black from Bama, Georgia's the favorite. So it'll be interesting to see. Georgia also wants 2 defensive linemen. Right now, there's not a clear name there. So it's interesting to watch for sure.
And I want to know how are they going to be able to keep all these numbers around the 85 with whoever goes out for the draft. And I think you had what 27, 28 guys come in, and then all the
I will say
transfers.
right now, based off the numbers I'm seeing, is they're at 89.
Okay.
And right now, I expect them to add around 4 more. And I think they need 8 to leave if these projections are right. So we'll just have to see how it works out. There's always a way to like gray shirt or put someone off scholarship for a year. So the coaches have it figured out better than we do. So we'll just have to play it by ear and see what they do.
How about after spring practice? Is there a chance maybe someone get processed, as they call it, and maybe told them to go somewhere else, or they can go in the transfer portal? Because I think there's a 30-day window in the spring.
It was recently reduced to 15. It was
Okay.
30 days the previous years, but they recently made it 15 days. So I'm really interested to see who, because Georgia, they're going to have a couple guys transfer out in that window. So it'll be interesting to see who transfers out that window. And I think most of those guys who transfer out that window, it's not going to be their choice, but the staff's choice.
That's right. Completely agree. And then another one I did want to ask. So the early top 25 coming up. I know that's kind of really early to look at, but looks like it from ESPN. It's Georgia 1, which I know we got a lot coming back. Got Texas 2, Oregon 3, Alabama 4th, of course, with Nick Saban retiring, and also Ohio State 5 and Michigan 6. Any thoughts on any of those teams at the way
I
too early top 20 or top 25 for 2024?
I will say Georgia is the clear favorite out of all of those, and it shows with them being ranked number one. But I think Texas has added a lot of talent through the portal. I don't know if they should be considered number two yet. I don't know who the clear number two is. I think Georgia's the clear one. So I'm really interested to see how it plays out. Obviously, some of these teams disappoint and are going to go way down. Like Bama, I don't think will end at 4. I just think right now, Bama, with losing Saban, DeBoer's first year, I think DeBoer's a good choice for them at coach, but I don't think he can keep them that afloat for a year. And I think they might have a little bit of a downer more so than they did have last year.
But I will say Ohio State might be trending up within the last week. I know
I
that.
do think they have a better quarterback room for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Will Howard was Kansas State. There's a reason why he left. Um, the forget the kids that play the kid that played in the bowl game. Well, they only got 3 points. He didn't look good at all. Neither one of those guys. They look lost. And I know be hard to replace. And then you are getting the we talked about earlier, the 5-star kid coming in, Julian Sands. But we'll have to see. But I know they haven't ever since CJ Stroud left, kind of been in a mess. Kyle McCord wasn't the guy. I think he ended up going to he go to Syracuse, I
He
believe.
went to Syracuse with Fran Brown.
That's
Speaking
right.
of Fran Brown's been recruiting there. He brought over 2 Georgia receivers, Zeed Haynes,
That's right.
and you also had Jackson Meeks,
Mhm.
which Jackson Meeks I like as a receiver, big-bodied receiver. Never could find his place at Georgia, had some drops issues at times and some issues that kept him on the sideline, but he has all the athletic tools to be a freaky wide receiver for a team.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I know Fran Brown's probably jumping all the Georgia boys. That's really good. I think he'll
Mm.
be a good fit there. He'll be a great recruiter up in the East, and yeah, hopefully the best for him.
One of the reasons Ellis Robinson came down definitely played a factor there. I'm glad they were able to get Ellis Robinson to stick,
Yeah,
especially with him leaving. But
yeah. What do you think about T. Rob or Travarius Robinson coming in as the new
I'm
coach
loving
for
the
DC?
addition.
Yeah,
And I was looking at something earlier, and he's the second highest paid coach on this out of all the assistants, just behind Glenn Schumann, who's making 1.9. He's making 1.3. Muschamp's only making 50,000 as an analyst
Mhm.
this upcoming season, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
That's a steal. Even if he only works like 10 hours a week, that's a steal.
yeah.
But it's so exciting to see all these players coming in, all the good coaches on the staff. It just continues to get better and better. And Georgia, I don't think is slowing down. They've had like 6 guys predicted in their 2025 class by multiple different sites. So it's going to be super interesting to see how this constantly changes because they're constantly changing the roster, constantly preparing for the next year. So always an exciting time for Georgia football.
Oh yeah, it is for sure. Another name I want to mention, just because he reclassified for that 2025. How about Juju Smith? Do you think Georgia has a chance at him? I know he's a current USC commit.
Juju Lewis is
Oh,
one
Juju.
of
I'm
those,
sorry, Juju Lewis.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
from Carrollton High School.
Yeah.
I think he's a great quarterback. I'm not sure if he comes to Georgia. there's something that strikes me as maybe he won't come to Georgia, because some of those elite players, they think about Georgia, then they eventually decide, oh, I don't want to come in and go against all those big time quarterbacks. That's why you have Puglisi come in. The guys who aren't scared to come in with all this competition and compete are going to come here. And the guys who are kind of scared of it and shy away from it, like Raiola decided, I want to go be a guaranteed starter at Nebraska. They're going to go there. And I don't blame them. You got to get the playing time where you can. But Georgia's going to get the right pieces due to these guys going, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think Georgia will go after a quarterback in the 2025 class or
They
any?
will definitely go after a quarterback. I know they're still going hard after Juju Lewis, and that'd be a great get for Georgia. But some other names to know are Antoine Hill. He's the cousin of Trey Hill, the former UGA center.
Hmm.
And then you have a name like something Quentin Murphy. He's an Arkansas quarterback, teetering on the edge of high 3-star to low 4-star. I've seen some projections for him to Georgia. So I'm really interested to see what ends up going on with that quarterback class, whether they're able to flip Juju or they go after Antoine Hill or they go in a completely different direction.
Yeah, that's really good. And then was it 2026? Was there a crystal ball out for
Yep, for
2026?
Jarrett Curtis, the number one quarterback in 2026. I believe he's from, I think it's from like Louisiana or something like that.
Right.
Or
Did he
I
commit
could
or
be
it's just a
mistaken.
crystal ball, I think?
It was a crystal ball by Steve Wiltfong, so it's the
Okay.
director of recruiting for 247. So it's a
247.
really trusted source, more trusted than like an insider for just Georgia. It's
Yeah.
a guy who's non-biased, more just covers all the teams effectively in recruiting. So
Yeah.
that's one of those crystal balls you can get excited for and get hyped for.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if Kip Adams puts it in, you're like skeptical because
Yeah.
they only see the Georgia side sometimes. So
Yeah.
I it's got me a little bit more confident, but I wouldn't put too much stock into it because a lot can happen and it's still early in the process.
Yeah, and usually if these guys commit a couple of years out, I usually don't get excited because they end up flip flopping anyway or going somewhere else. So it's like, but you want to almost commit, 6 months to a year.
Yeah, you
What's
can
going
look
on?
at guys like Jabri Wallace Coleman. He was a running back commit for Georgia. He decommitted from Georgia. Tay Harris, you can look at, he committed in June
Right.
and he's flipping. So if they commit early, it's not a lock. It's not a lock until they're on campus because they can always ask to be let out of their letter of intent, enter the transfer portal. So it's just so hectic and there needs to be some sort of rules to help these coaches because I'm sure these coaches get like no sleep nowadays.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the
I
one good.
I wanted to also mention another name I saw. I saw Ben Wolk retweet a post about Dylan Chrisley, a 2024 JUCO. And as people probably know, that Georgia wants to take two defensive linemen, an outside guy and an inside guy. And there's this JUCO defensive lineman who has 40 reps of 225 on the bench press, a 4.4840, and he got 11 and a half sacks in 8 JUCO games. He's 6'1", 275. So Dylan Chrisley is a name to watch out for. I believe he already has an offer from Nebraska. He spoke on the phone with the UGA. So that is one name I'll keep. I tell people, keep your eye on, see if Georgia offers late, and we'll see if anything happens there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate that. Hey, your wealth of knowledge on the recruiting trail.
Of course, I always got to spit the wealth of knowledge. And you also have preferred walk-ons coming in. They got two preferred walk-ons, long snappers coming in, one from UCLA, and Gardner, Bo Gardner, and then the other one is a freshman preferred walk-on, Luke Rabb. So these guys are going to be competing for that starting long snapper job after William Mote. I know a lot of people might be like, "Who's William Mote?" Because a lot of people don't pay attention to the long snapper. He's starting the long snapper for the past couple of years, and he's heading to the draft. So interesting to see who fills it. I know they're bringing in a couple guys, so that's also a position to watch.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate that. Hey, long snapper is very important. If you never say his name, he's doing his job. But if you start hearing the long snapper, kind of like the kid from Alabama
He's
in
kind of like a
Michigan,
punter. Like
yeah,
if you know the punter's name, or in our case, knowing the punter's name isn't bad because it's Brett Thorson and he's constantly cracking jokes.
yeah, yes,
So that's why you know his name, and also because he's kicking 75-yard punts downed inside the one. So
yeah,
um, Georgia's been doing great on special teams, and I'm just glad they didn't like bench Woodring earlier
oh yeah,
this year after he
yeah.
had a couple missed kicks because he just was lacking that confidence, kind of like Camarda did a couple years ago when he was shanking punts his first couple years, and now he's a great professional punter.
That's right. He was kicking in the playoffs this weekend. So yeah, he was hitting some boomers.
I believe he's done for the year as they lost to the Lions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, and still some dogs left in the playoff with some of the playoff teams. So that's good.
There's at least a dog going to be in the Super Bowl for sure because I know I think there's at least one Georgia Bulldog player on every team, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. And then I put you on the spot here, a little transition about outside of Georgia Nation or a Bulldog Nation. But who's your pick for, or who would you like to see new coach and possibly GM for the Atlanta Falcons?
I don't think they're going to change GM right now.
Okay.
And I wouldn't. I think Terry Fontenot's done a great job, but I think names to watch are like Ben Johnson. I really like Raheem Morris.
Hmm.
But there's so many good names out there. I don't like Bill Belichick just because
Agreed.
of the age, and I don't think it fits what they need.
Yeah.
It's kind of deviating from the plan of like growing something yourself. But I do think there's plenty of ways that they could go here and it'd be a great hire. So I'm really intrigued to watch. Obviously, Falcons are unpredictable, so I hope they find something good, but who knows with the Falcons.
Were you happy with Arthur Smith getting fired? I think everybody was, or did you agree with
I
that?
was.
Yeah.
I at one point I was like, oh, maybe give him some time, but
Yeah.
eventually you go stale on him. And I also don't think Desmond Ritter is not the
Yeah, he's
guy.
not he's not the man. Yeah.
Maybe you give him a couple more games, but I don't think they do. I think they have to change something nowadays. And with quarterbacks, you can't give them like 4 years to develop.
Yeah.
Either they are what they are, or they're gonna gonna not be an NFL quarter. He'll be a fine backup though.
Yeah. Here's my out of the box. We were talking earlier off air, but here's what I would do. Todd Monken, OC from Ravens, get Justin Fields in a trade, or that top 10 pick, eighth, ninth pick, whatever it is, get Jaden Daniels from LSU. Or if you get Justin Fields, maybe get like a Brock Bowers. He'll be there. Maybe trade Kyle Pitts, get some for him. Let's go. There's your offense, and get a good DC.
Yeah, there's plenty of things we could do, but I just saw before we came on that Falcons DC, who everyone loves, Ryan Nielsen, got hired with the Jaguars.
Oh wow.
So that's a tough loss. So there will be a new Falcons DC. So we'll be interested to see who the new OC is, new head coach, and all that is.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, we
So,
really appreciate it. Well, how do we follow you on your social media? I know you have your impressive Georgia sports content, over 4,000 followers, which is great, and you got a bunch of posts on there.
yep, I post Falcon stuff, basically anything Georgia pro sports or UGA athletics. So and y'all can follow there. And if you ever want to ask questions about any sport, you can just DM me. My DMs are always open. I've done a couple interviews on there, like with some Georgia walk-ons, like Drew Sheehan, who recently announced he's done with Georgia football and he plans to pursue a career in coaching. Great dude, one of the nicest dudes ever. So, Miles Thornton, another UGA walk-on, currently hosting the Players Lounge um, pod with Jacob Hardy. So there's a lot of great content I'm always producing on here. So drop a follow, and I hope to add more and do more in the future as I expand.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure and check him out on Georgia Sports Content. Also, I did want to ask, how did you come up with the Charlie Condon enthusiast?
Well, it's a baseball player for Georgia. He's a first baseman, and he also plays a little bit of outfielder. So he came in, he redshirted his freshman year, and then the next year he skyrocketed himself into like this top 10 type draft pick status with this insane season, and he's coming back for the next year. So I was super excited that he was playing well. So I decided to change the name on my Instagram account to Charlie Condon enthusiast, just to give him a kudos for being so great, because no one ever gives a kudos to some of those smaller semi non-rev sports like baseball, all the women's teams and stuff like that. So my
That's great.
page is less about completely football, but more about showing love to all the sports at Georgia.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, make sure to check him out. Great wealth of knowledge there. All kind of good things on there. Atlanta Falcons has got his boost predictions and all the updates on the coaching candidates. Georgia recruiting news. Got all kind of women's sports with Georgia. He'll have stuff on the Braves coming up. So yeah, good stuff.
And I want to thank you for letting me
Yeah,
on. This was fun.
appreciate it.
Absolute blast. I always love doing these things. There's never a dull day in sports world. So
Oh
there's
yeah,
always a wealth of things to talk about. So this has been fun.
yeah,
I hope you have a great day, and everyone who's listening. So
yeah, man.
I
Yeah,
can't thank y'all
appreciate it,
enough.
Kyle. And if everyone's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the Dawg House podcast. And we'll have some upcoming episodes coming up soon. Thanks again, Kyle. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.